The snow in Denver never simply falls after midnight. It arrives, deliberate. Each large wet flake seems to select its landing spot with intention, as though the storm itself is mapping every street, every alley, every trembling human figure still moving through the cold. They stick to eyelashes longer than physics should allow, melt on lips with the faint taste of old pennies and iron, and wrap the entire city in a sound-deadening blanket until even your own heartbeat feels borrowed from someone else. My name is Ethan Carver, 31 years old according to documents that no longer feel like they belong to me. By day, I sit in a dim home office in 5 Points, moving pixels around screens for clients who will never know my name. By night, I become someone, something else. A man on a matte black fixed-gear bicycle. He pieced together in silence over months of insomnia, the way other people piece together excuses or prayers. No coaster brake. Momentum isn't something you argue with. It's something you obey or it punishes you. No headlight, no tail light. Light only shows you what's already touching you. 7 months, 13 days, and if you want to be cruel about it, roughly 4 hours and 17 minutes ago, depending on which second you decide the world ended, I killed Kayla. We met in the bright antiseptic hell of the Cherry Creek REI during one of those seasonal clearance sales where hopeful people buy gear they'll use twice before it collects dust in garages. She was testing a white step-through cruiser, pedaling lazy circles around the showroom floor, wicker basket already stuffed with promotional flyers she clearly had no plan to read. I was standing near the pedal aisle pretending to compare clipless systems I had zero intention of ever mounting. She coasted to a stop so close the front tire almost kissed my sneakers. Either you're really into frame geometry, she said, tilting her head, or you're the worst at starting conversations I've ever seen. Her smile was crooked, one canine longer than the other, turning every grin into something private and mischievous. Eyes the color of pine forests after rain, light trapped and refracted inside them. Dark hair that refused to stay in any bun or ponytail she attempted, strands always falling across her cheek like they had somewhere better to be. I muttered something about chain tension and gear inches, nonsense even I didn't believe. She laughed, full-throated and unguarded, and the sound sliced clean through 3 years of walls I'd built without realizing how high they'd become. Kayla had a theory about cities. She said every place has two faces, the daylight one, clean, marketable, full of brunch spots and murals designed for likes, and the nighttime one, cracked and honest, showing its scars under sodium yellow and flickering neon. Denver's night face was the one she loved most. Uneven sidewalks buckling from tree roots, motel signs buzzing like dying insects, the Platte River sliding past carrying silt, cigarette butts, and older, darker things no one talks about. We rode together almost every evening after that first meeting, late-night loops through Cheeseman Park at 2:37 a.m., when old rumors insist the soil still remembers its century as a cemetery, and sometimes pushes bones upward when the moon is wrong. Empty runs down the 16th Street Mall after the free shuttles stop, wind shaking every roll-down grate like someone impatient is trying to get inside. Climbs up Lookout Mountain on moonless nights, her red wool coat flapping behind her like a blood flag, voice carrying back to me through the thin air. "Don't you dare slow down now, Ethan. I'm not riding with a coward." Her front basket became our shared secret museum. Inside it, always, one perfect raven feather she found at dawn beside Sloan's Lake, still glossy with dew-broken pieces of turquoise, chipped from condemned foundations in Globeville, a tiny brass key, tarnished which she swore once belonged to a music box that only played when the room was completely empty. Pressed flowers, dandelions, chicory, stray marigolds, gathered from highway medians and traffic islands, what she called roadside ghosts that refused to die. She sketched in that basket too. Small moleskin notebooks filled with charcoal drawings of the city after dark, empty intersections glowing under malfunctioning signals, two bikes leaning together beneath dying street lamps, silhouettes of riders who looked like us but never quite were. October 23rd felt stolen from summer, too warm for scarves, too soft for jackets, zipped all the way. We went to a warehouse show in Lodo, friends playing slowcore so hushed it felt like eavesdropping on someone's private grief. Kayla drank too much cheap Merlot from plastic cups, danced barefoot across cold concrete until the soles of her feet were bruised violet, then pulled me close and kissed me with wine-stained lips. "Let's ride home," she whispered against my mouth. The night's too honest to waste sealed inside an Uber. The route we chose was muscle memory, 15th down to Colfax, then straight on to Broadway. That intersection, Colfax and Broadway, has always carried weight. Too many lanes bleeding into each other at wrong angles, traffic lights that never quite synchronize. Local ghost stories claim more blood has soaked that asphalt than any other patch of Denver grid. The light turned yellow just as our tires rolled over the crosswalk stripes. I glanced sideways, red coat open at the chest, cheeks flushed from wine and wind, eyes catching every flicker of sodium light like broken green glass. Can we make it? I called over the hiss of tires. That crooked smile flashed again. Race you to the other side, hero. We surge forward. Fixed gears give no mercy. You keep turning or the rhythm breaks and punishes you. I felt the familiar fire climbing my quads, heard her laugh trailing just off my right shoulder like music I would never hear again. The blacked out Silverado appeared from the right at highway closing speed. Toxicology later showed the driver, 23, community college dropout, was scrolling through 3 simultaneous text fights with an ex who wouldn't let go. He never looked up until steel had already kissed flesh. Kayla was half a wheel ahead. The bumper caught her square across the ribs. Her frame collapsed like wet paper. The wicker basket erupted, raven feathers spiraling skyward, turquoise fragments scattering like violent confetti, brass key ringing once against pavement before disappearing forever into a storm drain, pressed flowers bursting apart into dry brown snow. The sound was not movie crash dramatic, it was intimate, wet, a heavy crunch, then the sick pop of ribs folding inward, followed by the soft tearing sound of things inside a body that were never meant to tear. I went down right behind her, left leg trapped and twisted beneath the rear triangle, femur splintered in at least 19 places. The orthopedic surgeon counted twice on the x-ray viewer because he couldn't believe the images. Pain arrived in white waves so bright I almost welcomed it. I crawled through broken safety glass that glittered like cruel diamonds, through pooling blood, the color of spilled Merlot under sodium lamps, toward her. Kayla, baby, look at me, please. Her eyes were open, fixed on a sky that had hidden every star that night. No breath clouding the air, no flutter of dark lashes, only that half-frozen crooked smile, as though death had interrupted her mid-joke and she was still waiting for the punchline. They sedated me for 4 full days. When awareness finally clawed back, the ICU smelled of bleach, overheated coffee, and something sweeter and sicker underneath, like flowers left too long in a vase. Aisha, Kayla's older sister, who had flown in from Seattle on the first red-eye, was sitting in the vinyl chair beside the bed, cradling a forest green ceramic urn in both hands, like it might break if she breathed wrong. She told me once she wanted her ashes scattered along the Platte Trail, Aisha said in a voice that sounded like it belonged to someone else, where the cottonwoods turned gold in October. But I thought, maybe you should decide. I stared at the urn until the edges of the room blurred. I still haven't opened it. It sits on the kitchen counter next to her last moleskin sketchbook. Pages of charcoal night rides, empty streets, 2 bikes leaning together under street lamps that are always dying. I ride instead, every night. The same obsessive loop. 5 points to Rhino, to Larimer, to Blake, to Spear and back again. As though if I retrace our paths enough times, the moment she died will finally stay in the rear view mirror instead of riding forever on my back wheel. Tonight, the snow is falling in heavy clinging curtains. Big wet flakes pile on handlebars, melt into freezing streams that run inside my cuffs and pool in the hollows of my collarbones. I pedal the long circuit anyway. Halfway down Larimer, between a brewery that's been shuttered since before the pandemic and a pawn shop whose neon Guns Gold Loans sign has been dark for a decade, I hear it. Click, click, click. Not loud, not rushed, just perfectly synchronized with my own pedals. Same freewheel hum, same tiny metallic tick on every upstroke. I ease pressure. The sound eases. I stand and sprint until my rebuilt leg screams around the plates and screws. The sound stays glued. Exact distance, exact rhythm, close enough I feel phantom air disturbed against my calves. In the dead black plate glass of the brewery window, I see the double reflection. 2 bikes, mine, black, low, hunched like something bleeding out. Hers, white, So close the front tire kisses my rear wheel every third or fourth turn with a soft, deliberate metallic peck. I snap my head around. Empty street, snow falling straight down in windless lines. No second tire track, only mine, already filling. Then the breathing starts. Not ahead, not beside. Directly against the skin at the back of my neck. Close enough I feel each exhale's warmth and moisture before the cold snatches it away. Short, quick inhale. Long quivering sigh. Tiny terrified pause. The exact rhythm she breathed when nightmares pulled her awake at 3 a.m. and she pressed her face into my shoulder so I wouldn't know she was crying. I whisper before I can stop myself. Kayla? The breathing stops. 5 heartbeats of perfect suffocating silence. Then, clack. The chain behind me skips once, hard. The sound bounces between brick walls like a single gunshot fired inside an empty cathedral. The breathing returns, closer. So close now I smell faint lavender shampoo layered beneath pond water. Old blood, wet asphalt that never quite dries. I swerve hard into the narrow service alley behind the Oxford Hotel. The whispers rise instantly, not one voice. A choir of the lost, hundreds, maybe more, murmuring at once from the bricks, the mortar, the frozen ground itself. Men with skulls caved in from factory accidents a century ago. Women with bandaged wrists dripping something darker than blood. Children whose voices never deepened. The words blur together, but the meaning soaks in like black mold. You left us here. Don't look back. Keep turning. We're still waiting at the light. We never left the intersection. I explode out onto Blake Street. They are already waiting. A man in 1920s work overalls leans against a loading dock, left side of his face pulped, cigarette ember glowing eternally between spectral lips. A nurse from the old Denver General stands beneath a shattered security camera, gauze around her wrists, weeping black fluid that never touches the snow. A boy, no older than 11, sits frozen on a rusted BMX, front wheel bent at an impossible angle, empty eye sockets tracking me smoothly as I pass. They do not lunge, they do not scream, they only turn their heads in perfect unison as I ride by, mouths stretched into identical soundless howls that pulls at something deep behind my eyes. I reach Spear Boulevard. The long bridge over the South Platte stretches ahead, almost a mile of naked concrete, railings too low, lights spaced so far apart the darkness between them feels like black water waiting to rise. I'm halfway across when the shapes multiply. Dozens become scores. Scores become a silent, motionless gallery lining both railings. Every hollow gaze locked on me. Every mouth open in the same mute, endless scream. Kayla slides level. Her front wheel now rides exactly beside mine. I smell her clearly. Lavender shampoo undercut by river mud. Iron, wet pavement that never sees sun. She turns her head, too slowly. Joints moving in ways biology never allowed. Face translucent, edges dissolving into smoke wherever light brushes. Eyes are twin black wells. No whites, no reflection, only wet, bottomless dark. Her mouth stretches into a grin that tears far past human limits, almost to the ears, revealing too many teeth, too sharp, glistening wet. She extends her right hand. Fingers settle lightly on my right shoulder. The cold is apocalyptic. Skin blanches instantly. Muscle seizes. Nerves scream blue-white fire. And yet, impossibly beneath the frostbite burn, a faint, familiar warmth flickers. The same warmth she gave when she leaned into me at long red lights and murmured, "Don't race the buses, idiot." Her voice arrives, not from her mouth, but from the air, from the snow, from inside my own skull. Cracked, waterlogged, spoken by many throats at once. "You were waiting for me, weren't you, Ethan?" Tears freeze on my lashes before they can fall. Then she speaks the words that reach into my chest and twist until something snaps. "You would have left me, alone, in the dark, forever." A sob rips out, ugly animal, uncontrollable. I pedal harder, vision splintering into shards of snow and orange light. The specters along the railings begin to move. One by one they step forward, off solid ground, into empty air. They do not fall. They hang, suspended above the black river water, mouths widening further. A low subsonic moan rises from the riverbed itself, building, swelling, vibrating in my teeth. in the titanium plates and screws that hold my leg together, in the marrow of every bone. Kayla's fingers tighten, not painful, possessive, claiming. We reach the far side. The moan crescendos, deafening skull rattling, then stops, cut off like a plug pulled from the universe. Silence crashes down, absolute, violent. The hovering figures bleed away like ink dropped in water. The bridge is empty once more. Kayla is gone. But around my left ankle, a single red thread, thin as forgotten sewing cotton, faded, exactly the color her coat used to be. It glows barely against the fresh snow. I reach down with trembling fingers. They pass straight through. The thread stays, visible, taut, tugging softly whenever I slow, as though something patient is reminding me not to stop. I coast under the last working street lamp before the hill home. Chest heaving, rebuilt leg throbbing in time with my pulse. I look back at the bridge. Nothing moves, but the pressure returns, lighter now, on my right shoulder. A small familiar squeeze. The exact gesture she made at red lights when the city felt safe and endless. I whisper into the falling snow. I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry, Kayla. I would give anything to take it back. No answer comes. Only wind, only snow, and very soft, very patient, the second set of petals turning somewhere just behind my left shoulder, never catching up, never falling behind. I push off again, toward the hill, toward the apartment where the green urn sits beside unfinished charcoal drawings, toward another night that will end the same way, because she is not gone. She rides with me through every shadowed arterial, every stuttering streetlight, every mile of black pavement this city owns. The dead of Denver watch us pass. They no longer speak. They only nod, slow, solemn, knowing as we glide by. And the red thread stretches, thinner, stronger, without end. One day, maybe years from now, maybe before the next heavy snow, I will reach the final intersection. One last yellow light, one last truck that does not miss. When that moment comes, she will be there, exactly beside me, hand on my shoulder, breath against my neck, that crooked smile waiting, and we will cross together. No more running, no more guilt, just two bikes, two chains turning in perfect eternal synchrony. One night that never ends. Until then, I keep riding, because stopping would mean leaving her alone in the dark, and I already did that once. Never again.